Off top, bananas, they're berries. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show, presented to you by Allstate. Throw your hands up. Everyone loves Allstate. We are joined today, as usual, by, I think, the number one guest in show history.
The Brandon Aubrey of show guests.
The great Bill Barnwell. Thank you, sir.
Venerated.
Hey, welcome.
Oh, that's beautiful. Venerated, man. I feel like I gotta retire now.
No, we can't. What are we gonna do on Mondays? Me and Charlie Kravitz, who's also here, would be in so much trouble if we didn't have you for these Monday shows.
You may get Dak Prescott soon enough, from what I understand, to be on these shows replacing me.
All right. Well, we got some great show titles because that's all that Charlie really cares about. Or not show titles, segment titles. Because you should see how excited he gets in the green room when he comes up with a new segment title. Like, oh, segment title.
It's good. Thanks for undercutting me. The offense is definitely.
I said we're gonna get some great. Great is the word.
Now, way to kill my excitement about.
Okay, my bad. Let me try again. I cannot wait for these games we're about to play. Charlie's got me fired up because the titles weren't good at first. Now the titles are great. Charlie, give it to me.
Okay, well, first we're going to actually talk about the most significant game of the day before we get into a couple segments. The first game that I want to talk about is actually not Ravens-Cowboys, which was an amazing game in certain ways, but it's Vikings-Texans because this is the one that I think has the most implications for the season moving forward. If I had told you before the season that the Vikings through 3 weeks were going to look this dominant defensively and have Sam Darnold cooking this way. Not that he would play well, but that he would play this well and this consistently. I think we all would have been somewhat surprised. So I'm going to ask a question in two parts. First one to you guys. Are the Vikings the best team in the NFC? And then ... Are they the best team in the NFL?
You are trying to bait us into the hottest of hot takes. I mean, if you're going based on what we've seen so far.
Eviscerating the 49ers.
Yeah.
And then eviscerating the Texans, who are everyone's darling.
They look really, really good right now. The defense, I think, is better than even I anticipated. I felt like last year's defense. It's funny because C.J. Stroud said that they run a lot of smoke and mirrors, which to me kind of feels insulting. And I think that like last year it was with smoke and mirrors. This year it feels like it's like much better, solid, sound defense. But it is a lot of tricks. And the thing that jumped out to me for this particular game is something we've talked about a couple weeks in a row, is these smarter teams seem to have a particular game plan for the first half and then something else for the second half. And it felt like they get you all flustered in the first half, and then you go in the locker room, you're like, all right, we got something for that. Then you come out, and they're doing something totally different. So Brian Flores right now is, I feel like he's the most, especially after what Clint Kubiak just went through, the most impressive coordinator so far in this season.
Poor Clint Kubiak went from being like the toast of America to being dumped off the street for Brian Flores in a matter of 3 hours of football on Sunday. I mean, yeah, you're right, though. I mean, Brian Flores has been the best coordinator in football so far this season. I mean, I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound like an insult, but it's not. They're front runners. Like, they are built to play a very particular way, and if you can't get them out of that way of playing, they are going to destroy you, because we know on defense, Brian Flores, if it's going to be 3rd and long, he's going to confuse you. He's going to dial something up before the snap, and it's going to be something totally different after the snap, and you're not going to expect it, and you're not going to be able to process it quickly. So the Texans had 3rd and 10 or more 10 different times in this game, including like a 1st and 20, a 3rd and 21, like a 3rd and 18, a bunch of 3rd and 12s. That's the most 3rd and 10 plus snaps any team has had since the 2022 season. So over a full year of games there. And you can't beat this team in 3rd and long. Like, they're going to confuse you long enough for their pass rush to get home. And then you flip that to the offensive side of the ball. We've seen Sam Darnold make mistakes. He has not been perfect so far this year by any means. I don't think he's really that different of a quarterback than the guy we saw earlier in his career. Now, he's a little better, I think. And the big thing to me has been he has not had to play from behind. He has not had to play in obvious passing situations. They have consistently been ahead. They've been competitive. I don't know how often they've trailed so far this year, but they might not have trailed very long at all. And this is the exact sort of game the Vikings are going to win week after week. If they can get an early lead, if they can get you in 3rd and long, that is absolutely what they are built to do. And as long as they can keep doing that, no reason to think they'll stop.
So I don't want to hate on Sam Darnold. He's been incredible, but I'm not going to hate on him. I was just saying to be clear about what we're watching.
You want to hate on him a little bit. Like you're building up to a hate.
Now he can say whatever he wants.
Yeah,
I not to hate on him, but this guy sucks.
All right, let me try it one more time. Here we go. So Sam Darnold is great. And we have to also appreciate that Sam Darnold has been performing in ideal conditions. In this game, I don't think he got pressured very much at all. Like, the offensive line has been incredible. The running game's been strong. You got the best receiver in football in Justin Jefferson, and Kevin O'Connell is scheming up some easy throws for him. Sam Darnold's had some really good tight window throws also, but a lot of the throws are easy. I think the real question for how high their ceiling is, and this is for every quarterback in football, there will come a time when you have to make a play. That's not going to be schemed up for you. They know you're going to pass it. They're going to need you to make a play, and we haven't seen Sam Darnold show that ability just yet.
So just to be clear, you're saying Sam Darnold is great, but you don't want to give him any credit.
I gave him credit.
Are you calling him Ginger Jared Goff or below that? Like, where are we going with this? Because you basically just described all the criticisms for Jared Goff when he was in the Sean McVay system.
Do you want to rebut, or you just want to make me say the same thing I just said over again? Maybe you made it more concise. Does Ginger Jared Goff make you happy?
I just wanted to say that.
Lego hit. Yeah,
I think you want to call him supersized Andy Dalton is what you want to have.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate.
After today, that's not really an insult, though.
Yeah.
Oh, God, he pops so much in those Carolina uniforms. Can I ask you about the Texan side of it? Because I think we thought that their offense was going to take a considerable leap this season with C.J. Stroud going into a second year, the acquisition of Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell coming back from injury. And it actually still seems sort of like the run-first approach that Bobby Sloak had last year, and the offense doesn't seem much more explosive. Is that concerning to you? Concerning?
No, but also not surprising. Like, this offense was fine last year. It's not like the offense has to be better for them to take a leap. Like, I think if you were expecting something to improve dramatically from last year, it'd be the defense, given all they invested on that side of the football. Whereas on the offensive side of the ball, really the only addition that they made was Diggs. Or I guess Mixon as well, but Mixon was out for this game. But like, that's always been the conflict with this team, is this idea that I think people were sort of plugging in, like, we're getting the 280 carry version of Joe Mixon. We're getting the 110 catch version of Stephon Diggs. There's not that number of footballs to go around. Like, this is a team that was not throwing the ball a ton last year, and it worked. I don't blame them for doing that. But as you transition from being a team that runs the ball a ton to a team that throws the ball more often, either you're going to leave some receptions on the field for the passing game and it's going to be more inconsistent, or you're going to struggle without having that run influence that really underpins a lot of what you do on offense. And I think that is something they have to figure out as the season goes along. I'm not concerned about that yet. I don't think it's like some fatal flaw in this football team. But even before this game, right? Like, this has not been a consistently great offense the first 2 weeks of the year. It's not like they've come out and, blown people out of the water the way they did in the playoffs last year. Like, they have been a offense that has had some big plays, but mostly been inconsistent from drive to drive.
Yeah, I think that the offense, what they've put on the field so far is like underwhelming. And when you have, we were talking about earlier with Sam Darnold about not having seen him in those big, you have to make a big throw moments. That was the thing that's been the thing that's been kind of more disappointing than anything is C.J. Stroud. That's one of the things we saw from him last year was he made some really impressive big time throws. We haven't seen that this year, and he was always kind of good against the blitz. And I guess these blitzes are uniquely designed and kind of confusing, but he wasn't good against the blitz in this particular game. And that to me is when you have a quarterback like that, and when people start to think highly of your team, that's because you believe that you have a player who can overcome these impressive schemes or impressively coordinated schemes and blitzes. And C.J. Stroud hasn't been that, and he wasn't that in this game yesterday.
And the other part of this is that the referees decided to basically try and make an example of Laramie Tunsil in this game. I believe he had 6 penalties, including multiple illegal formation calls, a couple false starts. It felt like this was Laramie Tunsil versus the referees as the undercard to Texans versus Vikings.
And Brian Flores, one by one, it's like that Grim Reaper meme of him going through the entire Shanahan coaching tree. It's like
he ran one coverage today that like he had this one where it was like a bluff into cover 2, which was impressive, but he's been doing that all season. But there was one particular coverage that I thought I hadn't seen them do before, where he had they only rushed 3 down linemen and they had like 2 robber safeties and man coverage everywhere else with the deep safety. It freaked me out. I was like, that's nice. I talk about how no one comes up with new coverages anymore, but that was some that I haven't seen that often.
I just love the quote from Purdy where he was mic'd up after the game last week, and he basically went to Flores and was like, "That's like the craziest defensive scheme I've ever seen." That was wild. And I wonder if Stroud went up to him this week and was like, "Hey, young blood, like, way to call a game out there, Rook."
I saw him and Darnold meet midfield. I was like, Darnold, you should have done it. You had to do it, Darnold. I don't know. We'll wait till the audio gets released, but somebody's got to little bro him. You have to.
But Darnold's like the Jason Tatum of the NFL. Not in the sense that he's that good, but just the fact that like he's forever 19. Like every year it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how young Sam Darnold is.
Yeah, I feel like in the football rankings right now, Packers run game is number 1. Like that's the thing they tune into Monday morning when the All-22 comes out and people want to be alone for a stretch and just want to be alone with their football thoughts. And then Brian Flores' defense is number 2.
I have a type, and it is not Packers run game.
I knew you were going to make that
joke. What joke? Like I don't get excited about watching these weird Packers runs because you don't have a quarterback. Brian Flores though, that's my type.
All right, guys, you ready for this game?
Maybe.
Oh boy.
This game is called We're So Back.
Whoa, what a game.
It's so over.
This game is so back.
Oh man, I'm hemorrhaging confidence.
No, I sold you.
You did.
I sold you.
How
bro.
do you think that was selling?
That felt genuine. You believed it, right, Bill?
Domonique has to be bottom 5 improv partner for me.
This is the guy who claims he could just crush stand up.
I did see now this is called gaslighting. Oh man, I did say I could crush stand up. You said I couldn't do like an open mic. I could do 5 minutes open mic a stand up. I'm not saying that I could be Eddie Murphy. Damn, I'm old. Why did I say Eddie Murphy?
What would your topic be if you do 5 minutes on anything for stand up?
My co-host.
One topic to do 5 minutes on. Your co-host.
Yeah, my co-host. It'd definitely be my co-host.
Just be
just roast the vanilla snack. Roast the vanilla snack.
Get those caramel flavors in there. Roasting the vanilla.
A little toasted marshmallow.
Oh gosh. Pumpkin.
Okay, so after today's performance,
potato face.
Bill, every time I shave my face, I look like a baked potato.
No, his fiance says he looks like a baked potato.
Oh no!
Yes. To be clear, that was the joke. It's not that he looks like a baked potato. It's that his fiance says you look like a baked potato, and so now I call him potato face ass.
How do you come back from that, Charlie?
It takes about 2 weeks of not shaving.
He returns. R.I.P. Tater Face. All right, what are we talking about?
All right. This game's pretty. I'm crying now. This game's pretty self-explanatory. Is it so over, or are we back? First one, the Ravens. I mean, they were up 28-6. Then they Ravens. They almost lost the game. They won because Lamar finally made an explosive play, got the final first down, and they were able to deal it out. In my opinion, I'd say that was the ultimate Ravens performance. They're so back. The 1 and 2 Ravens are so back.
Yeah, you're right. They'll go on to dominate a bunch more games. And they did. The funniest thing about this game was both of the teams did exactly what you expected them to do. The Cowboys couldn't stop the run. Dak piled up a bunch of yards and numbers after the game was out of reach, and the Ravens got to a big lead and then somehow had themselves in a game. Like this was, it's exactly how you scripted. It never actually works out exactly the way you expect, except for these two teams somehow managed to do it.
There's one big difference though. And I feel like, Charlie, you want to get to this topic. We talked about this in our group chat. I don't know if Justin Tucker's back. And I do know that he is so over, and he's been replaced by, I feel like, your new hyper obsession, the Joshua Dobbs of 2024 for you.
Brandon Aubrey. I mean,
Brandon Aubrey.
The dude just drops
weapon.
bombs, 65-yard bombs. He side spin onside kick. Zay Flowers was looking at that pigskin twirling towards him and was clueless. I haven't seen Zay Flowers that upset since the AFC Championship game.
Oh, Zay Flowers obviously didn't play baseball, right? Because he just
Definitely not.
Yeah,
He didn't have the.
I didn't play baseball either, but I know that you got to get your body behind it.
Yeah.
I was on Hans team.
Really?
Yeah, first 3 years in Denver, I was that guy that was supposed to catch those, but I normally just batted him out of bounds. I didn't even try to catch him.
Knock it down.
Yeah, get this thing out of bounds.
Just do the usual Domonique thing. Let Champ take care of it.
No, Champ was too valuable. You think they was going to put him out there? How dare you? The disrespect. You think Champ Bailey went to a special teams meeting?
No.
How dare you? His time's too valuable. Be sleeping.
I mean, nap time.
Yeah, please, go rest.
But how do you feel about the Ravens? Because they, for about 50 minutes, they looked pretty good today.
I don't know how to feel about the Ravens because that was them most of last year. I guess they play the games one of two ways. It's like they dominate for 3 quarters and then somehow find themselves in a tough matchup, or they dominate for 3 quarters and then dominate for another quarter. This version of the Ravens this year has had bigger question marks than last year or recent history because of the issues along the offensive line, and some question marks about their defense returning to their form last year. But I don't know how to feel about the Ravens, honestly, especially in the context of the rest of the AFC. Like, I don't feel great. Funny enough, is like the Bills probably are the team that I have seen like something close to consistency from so far this season.
That's just absolutely jinxing the Bills before Monday night. This is going to be incredibly bad 24 hours from now.
That's all right. They'll watch it in the morning and then they'll forget about it.
Oh, motivation for the Bills. I feel like the Ravens are still a work in progress, right? Like, this offensive line is still a real concern. And we saw them, I think, in a positive way, finally start to get the run game going. The only thing is, like, if there's anybody you can get the run game going on, it's the Dallas Cowboys. So when we think about, okay, like, do I feel confident that they're going to be the old Ravens running the football week after week from this point forward? Not because they beat the Cowboys, because anybody can run on the Cowboys. So I kind of feel like this was a good matchup stylistically for the Ravens, and I think they were able to exploit that into a big lead and then barely hold on for dear life to keep that victory. But I don't feel like they've solved anything. Like, Rosengarten, I don't think he played much the first half. I don't think he played at all the first half of this game, if I'm not mistaken. After seemingly doing a good job on Max Crosby late in the game, or early in the game, I should say, last week. It kind of still feels like they don't really know what their best 5 offensive linemen are. They don't know what their best offensive groupings are. Like, they don't have stuff they seemingly can fall back on as like the core stuff they do really well on offense. And that's a concern, because even these Ravens teams that haven't had offenses that ceilings were as high as I think this Todd Monken's Ravens team was, I felt like they had stuff they could rely upon as their sort of core competencies. Right now, the Ravens offensive line is preventing them from having those.
After week 1, Isaiah Likely was like, like, even coming out of that game, while I laughed at Charlie for trying to give them a moral victory, like, I felt good about the Ravens coming out of that game, even though they didn't play all that well, because Isaiah Likely stepped up.
This is not a moral victory.
This is definitely not a moral victory. This is a real victory. And maybe a moral loss, because they're still doing the same things that they do. But yeah, I think your point is well made, Bill, about them not feeling like they have a particular identity. The thing that's been floating around my head that I haven't really wanted to say, but I said a couple weeks ago, like, Lamar's accuracy, man. It feels like it's something that's gotten in his head too, where on a big third down, he misses towards the end of the game. And then the final pass that he got to Hollywood, to Flowers.
Lil Yippee.
It felt like he was guiding the ball there. I rewatched it a few times because I was like, why does he seem so uncomfortable and so unsure? And like, just let it rip. And so I don't want to play psychologist, but we can watch the games and see that the accuracy it's always been an issue for Lamar. And it's never seemed to bother him until now.
Charlie, just say it's Dr. Fox. That's your next segment for next week. Save that one.
Doc Fox. By the way, to your Mark Andrews point.
Who said anything about Mark Andrews?
Or to Isaiah Likely. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Mark Andrews also only played 20 snaps, 33% of the plays today, and was targeted once. So they've got some.
Yeah.
Those were supposed to be cornerstones of the offense. Sorry, I got my tight ends mixed up there. But the other side of this coin, of we're so back or it's so over. And this one's complicated because you can go either way with it. The Dallas Cowboys, who were down 28-6 in this game. Dak had a classic Dak game, down 3 scores, runs it up to have 379 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But this time they almost came back. They had the onside kick. They got it within 3 points. They were one stop away from having a chance to win the game. Jerry Jones was on Instagram Live this morning saying crazy things. The Cowboys are in full swing. And you know what? They're choking a close game. So are they so back or is it so over? They're 1-2 behind my beautiful Washington Commanders in the NFC East right now.
It's so over for them as far as being contenders are concerned, I guess. And this is not back for them. The back for them is a good regular season.
Stat padding, Jerry doing crazy stuff.
I get all that. That's very back. But on field, like they are. We talk about it a bunch of times, 12-4 or 12-5 last several years. Like, I don't think they're going to be that good this year. And making the playoffs may happen, but like they go into the playoffs with expectations. They won't this year. This team is not very good, and I don't see.
Are we sure they're going to go into the playoffs at all?
Yeah, I doubt it.
I think so.
We'll see. There's 7 teams get in. There are a lot of bad teams out there. Well, actually, not that many bad teams. They may or may not get in. But my point is, they're normally really good right now, and we all listen to Stephen A. say, wait for the collapse. The collapse already happened. There's no way to collapse from here. They aren't good.
I think they're better than you're giving them credit for. I just think the problem is, like, we talk about that 12-5 team. Well, this is very clearly a less imposing version of last year's team with the same flaws. I mean, this was an offense last year that could not run the ball effectively, did not have a running back they trusted. Tony Pollard struggled for most of the year. And they just kind of waved their hands in it this offseason. They were like, yeah, well, listen, guys, we're good. We'll figure it out. You don't get it. It's the offensive line. They can't run the ball. It's not a surprise that the only time in this game they were able to rack up yardage and score points was late in the game when they abandoned the run altogether and just threw a ton. And then you flip it, the Packers ran over the Cowboys in the postseason last year. They beat the hell out of them in that game. What has every team done to the Cowboys so far this year? They beat them up. They run them over. I mean, Derrick Henry must have been like licking his chops looking at the tape for this Cowboys team. And he ran all over them in this game. When they had to stop Lamar with the game on the line, they couldn't stop Lamar from running for a first down. I mean, this defense looks no better, and it looks flawed in the exact same ways last year's defense was flawed. And that, to me, is the most upsetting thing about the Cowboys is that, like, we don't have to wait for this story to evolve. We don't have to wait for them to collapse because we know exactly what their flaws are. It's the same flaws we saw a year ago.
Let's just remember this because at some point, because we do recognize that this team is still impressively built to play a certain way. Well, I guess their offense isn't quite good enough, but their defense, if you get up by 2 scores and let them rush the passer and play defense, they're going to get turnovers and sacks. So when they go on a 3-game run this year where they beat a couple teams by 2 scores, we have to remember, like, when they play really good teams that can run the ball, it's going to be a problem.
When did they play the Giants?
I was literally about to check if they played the Commanders and Giants back-to-back.
Yeah, and we're going to get all excited because they scored 35 points.
Oh, next week they play the Giants.
Oh
boy.
Right. I think
right game is right.
And then they play the Commanders and Giants back-to-back around Thanksgiving week.
Ooh, around Thanksgiving.
Commanders, Giants, Bengals, Panthers. That's the 4-game stretch, depending on the Bengals' health, where things could look real good for Dak.
Yeah, remind me of this when things start looking good so I don't get fooled like I have been in the past. I think Jerry Jones is probably focused on the wrong things in his scouting report. Outdated scouting strategies by Jerry Jones.
Nat Geo Birdwatcher. All right. Next team, the Philadelphia Eagles. They are back? Or is it? Oh, they beat the Saints, who were Bill Barnwell's Super Bowl team, as he patted himself on the back for Derek Carr being the second coming of John Elway. And the Eagles dispatched that team. So are they so back?
We need more. They've had such a long run of bad that we need more. I will give their defense credit because I feel like that was the difference in this game is they got pressure on Derek Carr. If they get pressure, that changes everything. Yeah. They were able to also take away the play action pass. And they bought their offense time, bought them time and field position so they could finally score enough points to put this game away. It didn't feel like a we're back game, but it's a step in the right direction. But it's been such a long stretch of being stinky that it's going to take more than 1 week against the Saints. And it wasn't like a dominating performance. It was defensively, but like their team didn't just feel like the Saints didn't deserve to be on the field with them. They have a little ways to go, I think.
I don't know if you guys saw, speaking of play action, the Dolphins ran a play action fake on an untimed down from midfield at the end of the first half, just because you gotta threaten the run. You gotta make those linebackers move. Just so I was thinking about play action, my favorite moment of week 3.
I didn't even see that. That's absurd.
The Eagles' pass rush was the big difference here. And that is, I think, the one thing that would lead them to be exponentially better on defense. If they don't have a pass rush, I don't think they have any hope of being good on defense. And we've seen little bursts of that pass rush so far this year, but this was the most sustained game from them. But Jalen Carter was probably the best player on the field from what I saw in this game. I didn't see every snap, but I saw a fair amount of it. And maybe Saquon Barkley was the second best player on the field in this game because he was phenomenal as well. And if you get Jalen Carter going, if you can get one of the edge rushers going, if you can just get steady pressure. We saw Derek Carr make mistakes in this game, some sloppy throws, including the game-ending interception with pressure in his face. So, that's it. Like, if the Eagles can get the pass rush to be good, they're fine. They are back. If the Eagles can't get their pass rush to be consistently good, they are not coming back, even if Saquon Barkley is great.
Well, Vic Fangio is back, and the Eagles' defense is back. I'm not sure that I feel great about what Jalen Hurts is going forward. So, like,
especially with that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith's banged up now.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's probably
Dallas Goedert, baby. Dallas Goedert, 170 yards.
Catch. The one-handed catch that's basically won them the game. That's awesome.
No, I think Bill's point brought me to like why I feel this trepidation for them being all the way back is like Jalen Hurts hasn't developed to the quarterback that we expected him to be after that Super Bowl run that he's had. Like, he needed to get better from that point. And last year was injury plagued, and this year we haven't seen him. And last year also was the blitz. He didn't know what to do against the blitz. He hasn't seemed to regain that control or that potential that he had back in the day. So I think that's also a question about them being fully back. I don't feel that great about Jay.
And just looking at the sideline, Nick Sirianni, it's not really like engendering confidence in the coaching staff. No one's like the shots of him zoomed in on the sideline looking either like far too emotional or very confused. No one does that better than Nick Sirianni.
Yes. He's back. I mean, like he's back for sure. But like, these Eagles games are coming down to one play. The last game last week was the 3rd and 3. Like, if Saquon catches that pass, they win that game. If they didn't catch it, everything else happens after that. This game was a 3rd and 16. They ran mesh. 3 Saints players ran into each other. Dallas Goedert went up the sideline for 60 yards. They scored a touchdown. Like, if the Eagles get 6 yards in that 3rd and 16 and Jalen Hurts gets sacked on 4th and 10, not a crazy change to how they played in that game. Like, we're talking about them totally differently. And like, I know this can be a lead that comes down to 1 or 2 plays, but the best version of this Eagles team was not winning games by 1 play. They were dominating lesser football teams. And this team, even if you're optimistic, you can't say they're dominating opposing teams right now.
On the other side of this, I want to read you a quote that was reported by Bridget Condon, who overheard C.J. Gardner-Johnson screaming in the locker room. Oof. They're not contenders, they're pretenders. They have Derek Carr, remember that. Is it so over for the New Orleans Saints, who were world beaters coming into this week?
This was pregame?
No, he said that after the game.
I mean, after the game. Yeah, everybody can say it after the game.
It's a good quote.
Yeah, it's a great quote. It is a great quote. I mean, I'm a Cam Taylor-Britt fan. Talk your before the game and then go get a one-handed interception on Patrick Mahomes.
He also got roasted in that.
One-hand interception is worth more than a roast.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the defense played well, I guess, for stretches in this game. They won't, Yeah, I'm trying my best to keep hope alive for the Saints. I'm trying to keep hope alive for the Saints. I think it's because I was so wrong about them before the season. I feel like a jerk just jumping off the bandwagon. They weren't blown out in this game. I don't think they're bad. I think the offensive line was going to be the issue, and somehow they hid the offensive line up until now. They didn't become an issue. They became an issue today. And the worst thing for Derek Carr is pressure. So that's the most scary part is the worst thing for every quarterback is pressure, but Derek Carr is particularly susceptible to pressure causing negative plays. So if the offensive line is as bad as we all thought it was early in the season, the tackles in particular, then yeah, it's over for them if Clint Kubiak's not able to figure out a way to hide them.
Believe they had injuries to the interior of their line in this game. I think Eric McCoy left the game. I think Cesar Ruiz went down for a stretch. And that's obviously going to make an impact. To me, this is very similar to the Vikings situation, right? Like if the Saints get an early lead, their secondary is going to be very good. They can disguise their coverages, and their offense, their play action game is going to work really well. And this was not a game where they were consistently good running the football. It was not a game where they got ahead by a bunch early, and Derek Carr got into some situations on 3rd and long, and that is not what Derek Carr is good at. That's not what his strength is, especially given what we saw from him with play actions early on. So I think the days of Derek Carr maybe being the quarterback one are probably over, but still think this team is the best team in the NFC South, pending what happens in the Falcons game tonight. High bar, not exactly a high bar.
Are there teams like when you've brought this up a couple of times, Bill, and I think it's accurate and it's interesting about these teams that it feels like their success is relying on how the game plays out. There's like only one path to victory. Are there teams outside of teams who have like extraordinary quarterbacks that you feel like are built in a way? I've set you up right there because is that what we're just saying, right? It's like you have a quarterback that's special enough to overcome these early losses, or is it that you have a defense that can create turnovers? I was trying to figure out what the characteristics are because you're accurate on the teams that you've named. And then I started thinking of the teams that I'm like, all right, get behind early. It's no big deal. And you know what pops in my head? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, like the guys. Is that it? You got a guy, you don't got a guy. I'm sorry, Bill. Did I boil your insightful point down to do you got a guy, you don't got a guy?
You know what, Domonique? Sometimes you know this as someone who has to do a lot of commentary on football. Sometimes you say something that sounds really smart, but it ain't really smart when you think about it that much. You're just like, oh, you got good quarterback, you're going to win. Bad quarterback, you're not going to win. And yet, I try not to sell out my teammates and just poke holes in there to try to make them sound smart.
I wasn't trying to poke holes.
Where I think that's kind of where we're at. I think you have to be great at something. Either, because there's not really, to me, any sort of truly dominant team across all facets of football right now. I think you either have to have that superstar quarterback or you have to do something so well that opposing teams are terrified of it. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, that might have been the Eagles pass rush. Even if they got behind, that pass rush was so good, that front four was so good that they could keep up. Maybe last year it was
the Lions offensive line
rushing attack, Lions offensive line, that they could bowl you over if they needed to. Right now, I don't, this is it's very much a 2-1, 1-2 league. There are not a lot of truly terrible teams, and there are not a lot of truly great teams right now.
I mean, I think Lamar has that ability. He's shown it too. I think what I was doing to you, Bill, is what happened to me last week. The most traction that I've ever gotten for anything I've done in my sports media life was a really basic dumb joke. So it just really brought into stark contrast how worthless all the analysis is that I'm doing, because if I say something about Shannon Sharp's hips, numbers through the roof.
Did that come up on the Instagram Live that Jerry Jones was doing today?
Moving on.
All right. And now.
Oh, great transition. Set it up right to
It's time for the check-in presented by Allstate.
Throw your hands up.
Ooh. We're going to be checking in on the Packers and Matt LaFleur in particular, because we should give some shine to the way that Matt LaFleur is coaching up this team with Malik Willis, a quarterback. When Jordan Love went down on the field in Brazil in week 1, we thought that the Packers season could be in shambles. Over the last 2 weeks, it seems like LaFleur has taken great joy in the fact that he's like, I can win with this guy, and I can do it my way. We're not letting him throw on 3rd down. He has a vomit-covered football, and we're going to keep getting W's. And the Packers beat the Titans today. Oh, what?
Are you going where I think you're going with this?
I don't know.
It feels like it. It feels like he's going there. Go ahead. Finish up, Charlie.
Yeah, finish up.
that Matt LaFleur and the Packers are so back. And that is my check-in. I don't know where you thought I was going with this.
I thought your check-in was going to be that Jordan Love should check into a hospital because they don't need him for the rest of the year because they got Malik Willis at quarterback.
That's too skull. I love Jordan Love. He's awesome. I just think it's incredible that they're doing this with a quarterback that has significant limitations, and it's bought them time for Jordan Love to get healthy. Because as a Washington Commanders fan, when you have a franchise quarterback with a deeply unstable knee, the worst thing you can do is rush them back. Can say that from experience.
I was smiling when you were going through this because it popped in my head that we might have another segment idea because this is one of the things that I was most wrong about. I don't know if we do a I'm sorry segment or my bad, dead wrong segment, but like I thought their season was over. After Jordan Love got hurt, and I knew Jordan Love wasn't out for the season, but say, all right, you guys are going to lose the next 4 games and you're done and you can't bounce back from that. And Matt LaFleur, like many offensive-minded coaches, many of the best offensive-minded coaches, I think get a little thrill from the challenge of just, and it kind of, I think it alleviates some pressure. And they're like, all right, now I can do all the weird that I've been wanting to do and see if it works out. See if I can really test this this brain. And he's done well. And we shouldn't take any credit away from Malik Willis. He's doing what is expected of him, but
more than expected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way more than what's
expected. My bad. You're right. Please, Bill, give him the credit that's due.
He was like, to me, a non-functional NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you could not even like threaten to compete with him and win games. Remember when he was going to be the starter in Tennessee after Ryan Tannehill got hurt in 2022, they called up the Pastronaut. They got Joshua Dobbs in there, and like in a matter of days, Joshua Dobbs, I believe, went from not being a part of the organization to playing because Malik Willis was unplayable. That's with Mike Vrabel, a guy who I think we all think is a pretty good NFL head coach. Right. But Matt LaFleur has Malik Willis playing excellent football. It's not obviously like a super high variance, crazy passing attack. It's not what Jordan Love would run, but he is a very functional quarterback in that scheme. He's running the ball effectively. He's been great in terms of his ball handling. Like he has not made many mistakes in terms of his decisions and reads. Like this offense is not incredible, but it is super functional. And the defense, man, they beat the hell out of Will Levis today. Like it was brutal to see what they did to Will Levis. And that is exciting for me because this team is back. And once they get Jordan Love back, now you have maybe the defense we just saw dominate a game and an offense that has an even higher ceiling, knowing they can run the ball effectively, still run all the stuff they want to. They can run all this option stuff if they want to. They don't have to take it out of the playbook and have a higher ceiling in the passing game with Jordan Love under center.
Yeah, since I've already broke out my psychology hat once in this game, I think the defense is particularly interesting. Once in this show, it's particularly interesting seeing this version of the defense now. It's not a version of the defense that we've seen, but there's something to be said for coming into a game with different expectations. And maybe it speaks to the type of game plan that you have when you're like, oh, we don't have Jordan Love. We have to do something differently. And the idea that they are using this as an opportunity to be more aggressive, take more chances, and get a little bit better, like it might – this is a long shot that losing your quarterback could be good for you in the long run, but it does feel like this team is becoming a little bit more well-rounded without Jordan Love. And if you can bring Jordan Love back in with some of these rushing threats that they've created and this defense is – create turnovers. I guess you won't always play against Will Levis where the interceptions feel a little bit more likely, but it's a better version of the team.
I think you said before this week that a Malik Willis-led Packers team would score 30 points. You'd be like, wow, that's a win. That's great. Even if one of them was a defensive touchdown off of.
Don't take my Alexander touchdown. Cornerbacks score touchdowns too.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Will Levis, you did not have the funniest interception of the week. That goes to my beloved Anthony Richardson on his goal line interception.
My God.
It's definitely tough.
Definitely tough.
It's another segment we'll get to. Okay. 2 more of these that we will run through really quick on We're So Back or It's So Over. The Bucs. Another team in the NFC South. They were everyone's darling. Their offense was amazing. Not so much today. They got boat raced by the Denver Broncos 27-6. Boomer Bo Nix outplayed Baker Mayfield. Is it over for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, I hate to say it. That one might be over. They were able to cover up on defense last week because they were just incredibly dominant in the red zone somehow against the Lions. They couldn't keep that up week after week. That defense is missing Antoine Winfield, their best player on either side of the football, in my opinion. They have injuries all over the field right now, and they do not have the depth to keep up. And, Baker made some incredible plays against the Lions. He was very inconsistent on Sunday. And I don't think the Broncos are a good team, but I do think the Bucs ran a little hot those first 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah, the Baker Mayfield experience, it reminds me a little bit of something that Charlie brings up all the time is like, essentially, I don't think he used these words, but you want to know what the player's superpower is, particularly at quarterback. Like, what's the special characteristic that you have? And for Baker, it's always been like the concept of Baker working, especially being somewhat undersized and not a great athlete, is his accuracy, which I felt like last week he had a great game, but it wasn't on the strength of his accuracy. It was on his ability to create and like wiggle out and scramble in key situations and make plays. That is something that Baker did a lot of in college. That is not something that you can have a healthy diet of. And I think last week, that was the game. Like, you're going to get one or two, maybe 3 of those games of Baker this year. But the more likely version of Baker is those are going to turn into sacks sometimes, and those are going to turn into interceptions sometimes. And the superpower of accuracy has to be paired with the anticipation and intelligence of Drew Brees, because I think that was his superpower. And I don't know that Baker's developed to that point yet. So, yeah, I think I agree with Bill. If they're not going to have a dominant defense that asks Baker to do not as much, then they're going to be in trouble.
This is one of my quarterback hobby horses of command of the offense over accuracy, that it's more important to know where to throw at the right time than the ball placement.
The other part is this team does not have a running game, like a functional under center running game, and have not for several years. And we saw some end around stuff work with Bucky Irving, but like Rachaad White is not a good running back. I know he gets a lot of carries. I know he gets a lot of fantasy points. This running game needs more Bucky Irving. And I think as the year goes on, that's going to be one of the levers they try to pull to try and get more out of the offense consistently.
Last one. The San Francisco 49ers. They were up 10 minutes. They were up 10 points with a few minutes left in the game over the Los Angeles Rams, who we were wondering if their season was over with the injuries to Kupp and Puka and their defense, et cetera, et cetera. They won that game. They beat the 49ers. Yeah, the 49ers are banged up. They're missing Debo. Ayuk is that's
an excuse that you could use if you weren't playing against the Rams.
I'm just getting there. Doing the full setup.
I feel you. I'm sorry.
CMC's on injured reserve. So is it so over for the San Francisco 49ers?
I mean, it's absolutely not over, obviously, but that game was embarrassing and shocking a result. They had it completely under control. I think that's one of the things that made me feel a little bit better about them is it's kind of the Ravens story. It's like, all right, you blew a game. You were dumb at the end, but you didn't get your kicked. That's like the difference in the Ravens and the Cowboys. It's like, all right, you blew a game. You got your kicked the week before. Getting your kick is much more concerning than late game mismanagement and follies, right?
It is, but like the issues here are real. Like the concerns for this Niners team are legit, and it is that they don't have a lot of depth. Like this is a team that, in addition to being top heavy in general, traded a lot of picks to get Trey Lance, a lot of picks to get Christian McCaffrey, and the middle of their roster, the bottom of their roster is very much a work in progress. It is not a team that has guys who are going to step right in. And we saw, I mean, go back to me, the most telling thing, the drop passes, but also that final sequence where the Niners could have tied this game. Brock Purdy scrambled for 9 seconds on first down and scrambled for 12 seconds on third down. And like, this is a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's not like this is a great defense for the Rams. Not like this is a team they never played before. Like Brock Purdy always has answers in those situations.
And it's not like Brock Purdy is a cautious quarterback. Brock Purdy will rip it in a tight window multiple times.
He'll fire that thing in, baby. But there was nobody even remotely open. And that is a concern for me without Debo, without Kittle, without McCaffrey. Like we always talked all offseason. last year, the year before. Hey, is Brock Purdy just Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he a guy, a difference maker? Can he win without having, the best playmakers in football? And he was not bad in this game necessarily. Yeah. But like we saw, when he needed answers, he did not have answers dialed up for him because the playmakers were not there to get open to make those answers. And that is a pressing concern because even if the Niners get some of those guys back, we don't know when Christian McCaffrey's coming back. George Kittle, hope he's back soon, but you never know. I mean, he's a guy on the wrong side of 30 at tight end. Their attrition rate is incredibly high. And as, of course, we transition to this post-Purdy contract Niners team next year, are they going to have enough around him to win?
Oh, great foreshadowing. Great way to end the show. I will not fumble the end of the show the way that the 49ers did. Time to wrap this up. This has been another awesome edition of the Domonique Foxworth Show presented by Allstate. Throw your hands up. Thank you to Bill Barnwell for joining us. Thank you, Charlie Kravitz, as usual, and all the great producers. I love you, Paul Bill. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.